Songpon TV.
Hi there, my name is Ruth Sill and welcome back to Songpon TV. Since our first episode went online, we have had loads of emails come through telling us what you think of SPTV and what you'd like to see in the upcoming episodes. And let me tell you, the results are in. You guys loved it, so that's good to hear. Thanks so much for your comments. Keep them coming. We are definitely working through all the emails, taking notes for future episodes. Out of all the feedback, one of the most common suggestions was to learn about chords and specifically chord inversions. Now this is something that struck a chord with me because it is something that most musicians and most pianists overlook when they're learning about chords, and it is really good thing to learn, especially in relation to the Songpon lessons. So today we're going to be having a look at just that, chord inversions, their makeup, and how to play them comfortably and correctly. This is a topic that is going to be most beneficial for the beginner and intermediate level pianists, although I suggest no matter what level of skill you are, you hang around and watch this tutorial anyway. I'm also going to be having a separate section at the end of this lesson, especially for the advanced pianists, so hang in there. Okay, so let's get into it. Inversions of chords are used when we want to voice the chord in a different way. There are several reasons we may want to voice a chord differently. The first is we may be playing a series of chords, which is normally called a chord progression, and need the smoothest and easiest route to play through these chords without having to jump our hands all over the keyboard to play them. The second reason we may want to voice chords differently is we may want to voice the chord so that a specific note or series of notes are at the top of the chords. This may be to accentuate a melody or to make it a bit easier to sing along to. There are three inversions that we are going to look at today. These are for the 3-note chords. We will have an extension at the end of this lesson, especially for the advanced players also, and this will have a look at 4-note chords and the 4th inversion. But for now, we're just going to be looking at 3-note chords, or also known as triads. The first chord we need to take a look at is the root position chord. This is when the chord is in its original position. So that's the root note at the bottom, the 3rd chord tone in the middle, and the 5th chord tone at the top. So this is the most common way to play a chord, and is the position we play when an inversion is not specified for a chord. The best way to finger this chord is to play with the thumb, the 3 finger, and the 5 finger. And that goes for both hands. So if we're playing with our left hand, we play the 5 on the bottom, the 3 in the middle, and the thumb at the top. These inversions will work for any chord, and that's why I'm explaining it in terms of chord tones. Now, a chord tone is the number of the note in relation to the scale. So, if we've got a C major chord, the root note, or the 1 chord tone, is the 1st note in the scale. And when I talk about the 3rd chord tone, it's the 1, 2, 3, 3rd note in the scale. When I talk about the 5th chord tone, it's the 5th note in the scale. So you can apply these inversions to any chord that you may have, major or minor or otherwise. But for the sake of this lesson, I'm going to be using C major. So the first inversion we're going to learn is called first inversion. And this is because it is the first time that the root position chord is inverted. To invert the root position chord, we take the bottom note, which is the root note, so that's our 1 chord tone, and we move it up an octave to be placed at the top of the chord. So we move it from down here up an octave to C up here. So our chord becomes first inversion. We've got the 3rd chord tone on the bottom, the 5th chord tone in the middle, and the root note is at the top. Now the best fingering for this is 1, 2, and 5 in the right hand. Alternatively, if you're playing it in the left hand, you're going to play it with your 5, 4, and 1 fingers. Now the fingering I'm suggesting for these inversions generally in this lesson is all just that, it's a suggestion, because from person to person, everyone's got different sized hands, our fingers work differently, and also with different chords, different types of fingering are going to be more comfortable than others. The next inversion we're going to cover is second inversion. It is the result of inverting the chord a second time. So to do this, we take our chord in first inversion that we just learned, and once again we take the bottom note of the chord, which is the third chord tone, and we're going to move that up the octave to be placed at the top of the chord. So we've got the fifth chord tone at the bottom, our root note in the middle, and the third chord tone up top. And the fingering we use for the second inversion is 1, 3, 5 in the right hand, and in the left hand you can use 1, 2, 5. Try practicing making inversions by choosing a chord that you know on the piano and try inverting it from root position to first inversion and then to second inversion and then backwards. And this is really also going to help you learning your chords back to front, because when you can play inversions freely, you really have to know those chords really well. Inversions of chords are used frequently in the Song Pond song lessons, so the more familiar you are with them, the easier it will be for you to learn your favourite songs. Now we're going to have a look at something especially for the advanced pianists. If you consider yourself a beginner or a novice pianist, do keep listening and keep watching with us, because you may still get something out of it, and you might not be able to pull it off, but you will have something to look forward to later down the track. We're going to have a look at some 4-note chords and another inversion. When inverting 4-note chords, and when I say 4-note chords, I'm talking about 7th chords. So we've got the four chord tones in the chord. So we've got the first chord, the 1 chord tone, the 3, the 5, and the 7. And I'm using C major 7 as an example. This will work for any 7th chords or any 4-note chords. Because we have an extra note in this chord, there is also an extra inversion that we can add, and that's called the third inversion. Before we get onto that though, we're going to look briefly at the other inversions with a 4-note chord. So root position is made up of the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th chord tones, and they're played in that order. The first inversion is root position with the root note shifted up the octave, as we learned before, but this time we've got another chord tone to think about. So, we take our root note, move it up the octave, and we play that like that. So we've got the 3rd chord tone on the bottom, the 5th in the middle, the 7th also in the middle, and then the root up the top. Second inversion is the first inversion, but with the lowest note, which is the 3rd chord tone, moved up the top again. Same thing that we learnt with the 3-note chords, but we've got that extra chord tone to think about. So that's our first inversion. We take the 3rd chord tone, move it up the octave, up to here, and that's our 4-note chord second inversion. We've got the 5th chord tone at the bottom, the 7th chord tone in the middle, we've got the root note next, and the 3rd chord tone up the top. Now the new inversion we're going to have a look at is the third inversion, and this is when we take the lowest note again, which at the moment is the 5th chord tone, and we're going to move that up the top again, up the octave to become the highest note. So now we have our third inversion. Now the fingering for this, the best way that I think to do it is 1, 2, 4, 5, and again you may prefer to have your 3 finger there instead of the 4. For the left hand, it's the same. 5, 4, 2, 1. So good luck. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson on chord inversions and the correct fingering. If you haven't found this tutorial helpful, then you may want to suggest a topic or concept for the upcoming SPTV episodes. Also, if you have found this tutorial helpful and you may have some suggestions or feedback, please click on the Have Your Say link on this page and send us through your opinions and ideas. Remember, if you are watching this SPTV episode from anywhere other than the Song Pond TV website, then the Have Your Say link will not be appearing. So you will need to go to www.songpond.tv to click on the link and have your say as to what you want to see on SPTV. Thanks for watching this SPTV episode. I'll see you in a couple of weeks with the next one.
SPTV. Proudly brought to you by SongPond.com, where you learn to play your favorite songs.